This has recently been the most surging segment in the automotive market, compact or small SUVs, depending on your definition of a vehicle size. SUVs or crossovers which do not exceed the length of normal compact hatchbacks, which are not much different in fuel consumption, but that are more versatile, have a more comfortable upright seating position, and it's also easier to get in and out. We're taking a look today at the non-premium segment. We also have a separate video for the compact premium SUVs. If you want to take a look at that later, we will link it down in the video description and the pinned comment. But today we fulfill your wish of comparing these vehicles here. The Mazda CX-30, the Nissan Juke, the Kia XCeed, the Toyota CHR and the Peugeot 2008. Whereas Mazda CX-30 and Nissan Juke more go into an SUV direction, the Peugeot 2008 sits in between, and the Kia XCeed and the Toyota CHR are more crossover-alike. The definition of that is soft and depends on personal preference, how high a car feels from the inside and so on. Major difference in advance, the Peugeot 2008 is available all electric. This possibility sets it apart from the competitors. Other than that, let's take a detailed look at the differences in exterior, interior and the driving experience. Join me, Thomas, on this extensive tour. And later on, please tell us in the comments which is your favorite compact SUV and why. Let's go! The all-new Peugeot 2008, both as combustion engine and electric E2008. Let's go! Please subscribe to us if you haven't done so far, and thank you so much to all long-term subscribers. Here in the front, the all-new Peugeot 2008 has a stronger stance on the road, stronger front grille, also more upright. This one here is the GT version. In the combustion engine, it's connected to the 155 horsepower top petrol engine, and it has this, vertical dots, let's call them that way, here also, with some shiny elements, so looks really sporty and nice, also sportier lower end than in the GT version. The electric version, the E2008, you can get in different trims, also in the GT trim. We can see it right here. So it looks kind of similar also in the lower part, but the E2008 always has a different front grille. First of all, we see those horizontal dots, we call them, and they're also in the same vehicle color. The length is at 4 meters 30, 14 foot 1 or 169 inches, and that's actually 15 centimeters or 6 inches more than the predecessor, so a significant gain in length. This will also have an effect on the interior, of course. Here again the ICE version, but in the side profile, the combustion engine version and the electric version is not really different. We just have different colors here today. This one is called Orange Fusion, and it's also a very strong color. So both colors we have here today on display are actually pretty much screaming out. This one here, the GT pack, also has the GT badge here. Beautiful evening sun here in the French Luberon. And also, again, this beautiful vertigo blue color here with the E2008. You can see the side profile. It's pretty much the same, so that more depends on the color, the difference here now. Well, we do have other wheels, but that's also not connected to the E version. Here, I think a little bit more beautiful in this two-color scheme than with the all-black scheme we have seen with the orange car. And now to the rear with a very modern design, pretty cool with those LED signatures and the Peugeot lettering. So that's indeed quite daring, but I think it looks really, really good. Or what do you think? Yeah, I'm glad they did not go for fake exhaust here on the E2008, so well done. Yeah, I mean, again in this blue color, again the same design. So that you have the GT badge right there, because this is also possible to have as a GT version. And then on the other side here, the E2008, that's the second thing where you can see that's actually the electric version. As for engines, it always comes with, when you pick the petrol, with a 1.2 liter 3-cylinder petrol engine. Here in the GT spec with 155 horsepower, made with an 8-speed automatic gearbox, 8.2 seconds acceleration figure, or 130 horsepower, optional 8-speed automatic, or then with 100 horsepower, just with manual. Then there's also a 1.5 liter 4-cylinder diesel, either 130 horsepower, made it with 8-speed automatic, or with 100 horsepower, then as manual. So that's it for the combustion engines. Always front-wheel drive only. Front-wheel drive only also for the electric version. 136 horsepower and 9 seconds is the acceleration figure to 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour. So a little bit slower than the top petrol engine. And talking about the battery, here by the way, we still have this charger that we don't deplete the battery with the interior functions to, again, just show purposes, but this one here will always be the same case here, the front electric motor. And the battery size is 50 kilowatt hours, so that's actually quite decent, and that gives an official range of 320 kilometers or 200 miles. And charging is up to 11 kilowatt AC and up to 100 kilowatt DC. I'm 1.86 m or 6'1", and when I have it in the lowest position, there is still some headroom left. There is a panoramic roof here, an optional one, and you can even open it, so it's not just one where you just have the slider, so you can open it, and it's actually not too small. Also, you know, in the width right there, and of course you can also, but it seems you have to hold it, so it's not like this easy function, and you know, and then you can also have this cover. And this cover then here is manual, but we'll leave it open for you. Well, and I would put the seat a little bit higher that we don't, you know, fall too far back actually, and make it a little bit steeper right there. And yeah, it's actually a good seating position also for tall people. As for the seat, especially here, those GT Sport seats, they're a little bit bigger, a little bit wider also, and they really keep you tight. That's cool. And then this steering wheel, you can adjust it, but you know how it feels like from the function, that is a little bit cheaply done, I think. So that's something to criticize in the interior build quality. The seat is marvelous, definitely also build quality wise, but here the steering wheel function, optional. You can get this 10-inch digital screen, and it has this 3D effect. You can pick it a little bit up on the camera, so it's like 2 layers, you know. So it appears even more three-dimensional, of course, with your own eyes. So this 0 from the kilometers an hour, and also this battery pack visualization from the car. This one looks, it would be the front layer, and the other layer is behind it. So very interesting technology. And you're, of course, a little bit flexible of what you want to display here and how you want to change the, you know, the layout. So that's the, you know, that's the advantage of those digital instruments. So pretty fancy thing, actually. Now the interior overview. Again, the top part here is soft touch, and then this there's a hole right here, so you can grab around that. Well, this is a, you know, unique design, so to say. In the view to the digital instruments, you can see how the steering wheel sometimes blocks it, especially when I have to put the steering wheel all the way up. And on the steering wheel, by the way, on the left side, you control those digital instruments here with rolling this one here, and also for volume up and down. And on the right side, then this more has an effect on what's happening on the right side, you know, for the music, for example, and picking up the phone. Well, then you have here this carbon fiber insert once again. It's not really carbon fiber, it's rather, you know, also soft touch. That's interesting. So you can really, you know, squeeze that. Pretty interesting. So now that we have connected the Apple CarPlay, this is the integration, not all the way over the screen, but you see it right here. And we can also play, you know, some music. This is then this standard audio system in here This sounds actually quite good, quite standard. We can also test how it is different from with this optional focal sound system soon. So now we switch the cars again with the focal sound system, and indeed the sound it sounds richer, so more depth, so to say. Really cool. So I can recommend that for music lovers. You have additional speakers on top of the screen. There's this additional focal speaker and also additional speakers at the A-pillars. And what about the rear? First of all, styling wise, you can see here, by the way, hard pack at the inside of the doors at the rear, but at this price point, I think it's also okay. Well, the E2008, not too cheap. Yeah, we can argue about that. So you can see here the fabric seats again, fabric Alcantara seats with leather on the outside. Again, a beautiful job. And let me get inside right here, because if you compare to the predecessor, this is of course something which has changed significantly. Now you can sit here with 4 tall adults, and it does indeed fit legroom and also headroom wise. It's actually quite decently comfortable, so nothing to criticize here. In the trunk, you gain now about 80 liters if you compare it to the predecessor. Quite square dimensions. Then you have this cover, which you can also hold open. Then you have some more space underneath. And then only in the combustion engine version, you have more storage underneath, so possible for replacement tire as well. So here we go, but that way you have an even loading sill. And the normal length of the trunk is about 75 centimeters, 1 meter in width, and also here 40 centimeters up to the top cover. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge with the 2008, the all-new 2008, and when we put in the reverse camera, here we go. This I want to show is very weird resolution, and the drone view up from above. This also doesn't make any sense. It's not with the side mirrors, just front and rear, and then there's no live feed from the side, so to say. It's just, let's say, a fake feed at the side. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. So rear view camera and the drone view from above camera, not really something that is really good with those cars. And I was expecting with this all-new generation that it gets a better resolution as for the cameras, but it hasn't. And voice input, by the way, when you press this button here. Increase temperature. Temperature changed. So this would be a possibility to change the temperature a little bit easier than going over the screen right there. Via voice. It's not a natural voice input, so when you hit this button, you have certain options, but then you can use those options. So there is some voice feature, but not like an elaborate one, so to say. This one is sharing this so-called CMP platform, by the way, with also other models you already know, DR3, for example, Peugeot 208, and so on. So it also, feels a little bit like you would be driving a small car. It's not a big car overall, no. You sit, of course, a little bit higher than in a 208, so because it has this SUV crossover style, but it still has this small car feeling. First of all, because of the dimensions, then because of the platform, and also due to this steering wheel, especially. It has, it is somewhat fun and unique. Definitely, it was also, in the other cars that have this Peugeot iCockpit. It's a little bit like in a computer game, no matter where you are. So that's definitely a lot of fun. I mean, especially to steer this car around some narrow areas. This is quite cool because it's very light in the steering. Again, feels fun like in a computer game, and it just makes life a little bit more unique, definitely. So how can we deactivate those voice? Well, usually, you just either you can set it here, like in the settings, or you turn down the volume. It depends on, but there's nothing you can, easy, if I find it in a very easy way. Now we're going a little bit more agile right here. And there's actually a lot of fun. So you don't have a supernatural feeling with the steering, but then again, because it's so light and small, it's just a lot of fun. And here in the slalom, actually, this platform here also offers some more stiffer driving fun. it's actually pretty decent. And the car doesn't feel like shaky SUV-wise. It feels actually quite agile and sporty. And especially in this GT version, together with those sport seats, they really keep you tight. Again, it doesn't feel that it would be the most suitable car for tall people. Steering setup, also with the instrument setup and so on, and the space you have overall. But I think we get along quite well, and both Jonas and me are not very small. So this car does deliver a very fun and unique experience, and it's indeed, in so many aspects, yeah, somehow different than the competitors. I can hardly see the speed here now, and I mean, I would have to put the steering wheel a little bit lower for that. Never do that while driving, what I'm doing at the moment here, by the way. So now I can see the speed better, but now the steering wheel is also quite low. So yeah, that's something you have to take in mind, definitely. Suspension is actually a good compromise, so it's not super stiff, it's not very soft, it's a good compromise in between, so I'm happy with that. And again, we're driving the 1.2 liter 3-cylinder petrol engine, has a turbo, and it's 155 horsepower. And for this car, this is the top engine, and that feels also fun and light to drive. So you can also get along with a little bit less horsepower output. Yes, it will be the same petrol engine, by the way. Diesel's not sure if they really make sense for this size of the vehicle. There will be a little bit less in the fuel consumption, but still, for this weight and this size, the petrol should be fine. Or then again, the electric version, which I'm also really looking forward to try. And now to the electric driving part of this review with the Peugeot E-2008. This will be very interesting, and two facts in advance. First of all, this motor here is a permanent magnet synchronous motor, so this is among the efficient ones. So the same technology that, well, approximately the same that Tesla is also using. And also they developed, together with Michelin, special tires for this electric vehicle to make it more rolling efficient. Bienvenue chez un autre épisode d'Autogefuhl avec Thomas et Jonas. Well, that's for the French lesson for today. So, this one here now, the electric, the Peugeot E-2008. Yeah, that's the way. And we want to start with the acceleration. Got the free road in front of us, private road, and no, we're very amazing. I can promise you, front wheel drive only, about 9 seconds is the official figure. I've put it to sports mode. Soon talk more about that. Let's just see how it goes. And let's go. And that's 100. Wow. So pretty quick, and also a very smooth acceleration. Really cool. And you know, on paper it is slower than the strongest petrol engine, but actually it feels faster. Yeah, that's, you know, really funny and definitely really cool. What do you think, Jonas?
Yeah, it's okay.
It's okay. Yeah, Jonas has just returned from the Porsche Taycan winter driving event, so he's like, oh, you know, of course. Damn, Brian, you were there. I was not. But, you know, I was also filming, of course, other stuff. On a parallel basis. So, and after we did this acceleration test, we will reset the consumption meter. That we get, you know, an accurate figure for that. GPS is as well. We have a nice route set. You can also just set that one on here. You can check out what's happening in the screen, like from recuperation wise, or green or then blue again when power is being applied to the wheels and so on. It's always nice to look at, but maybe just, you know, predominantly for the co-driver. Of course, the really cool thing about the electric versions, as always, you start all silent. That's really cool, and it just, you know, it just relaxes you when you are driving all silent. And of course, torque is always there with the electric motor, so you can accelerate at any time, and it's just an effortless driving. That's pretty cool. As I said, they also use a permanent magnet motor, so synchronous drive, and this is usually also a pretty efficient drive, as we know from Tesla. And also this fact with the extra developed tires with less rolling resistance. So this is also contributing for the energy consumption. Does it feel different to drive than because of the tires or something? I wouldn't say so. So there is not a big difference in driving this one here and the petrol GT as for the general driving feeling. It's just again more silent, and that fits also to the nice noise insulation. And like from the power you get, it's of course a different power curve, because there's no real power curve with the electric motor, but there's a real power curve with the combustion engines. This one is a little bit different, but both were actually quite powerful. So we had the most powerful petrol engine, then here also the quite powerful electric motor. So they feel both very powerful for this smaller car, and it's just again a very fun driving experience. As this power delivery is more linear, you can play a little bit more with the throttle. You can fine-tune that acceleration, you have to be a little bit more gentle, because there's this direct torque input, and that's also pretty cool feeling, definitely. Now at the moment we're going uphill, and this also a big difference then when you have the electric motor. You can always recuperate later on, and with the combustion engines, yeah, the energy is just lost, so the overall efficiency is of course better. And if you have charging possibilities at home, it might really be the way to go for. Checking the prices also and the subventions in your market, and for example in Germany, when you have the GT, which is also the GT here, so GT electric versus GT petrol, it's about 8,000 euros difference. Soon there will be in Germany like those subventions for 6,000 euros, and then almost the price difference is made up, and then you have maybe better taxation and so on. And this can then even everything out. So the question is, do you have your infrastructure? I can just stress again, it's a pleasure to drive those electric vehicles, and the same accounts also for that. It's such a good, nice driving feeling here at 80 kilometers an hour, so about like 50 mph. It's actually quite refined and silent yet again, and the car feels very, very sporty indeed. Although it has this crossover SUV styling, it's one of those cars, although it's quite silent, it always feels like you would be driving a little bit faster than you actually would, because it's so sporty challenging. Again, with a small steering wheel, there's a rather narrow cockpit. I feel somewhat cramped in this cockpit, so I think it's not the most suitable for tall drivers. However, because of those sport seats, I still haven't gotten any back pain, also not the day before when I was driving the petrol engine. So I can really recommend those sport seats, no matter if they're in the bright fabric or in the darker fabric. That depends on if you have the GT petrol or the GT electric. So that's also quite astonishing. I mean, you maybe also see it on camera that I'm not sitting in the, let's say, best seating position, but still quite interesting that I still don't get any back pain. Ah, there. I was wondering, oh, is the GPS leading us there to this off-road route? Turning circle here, interesting. And even if I just accelerate uphill, and that's 70 kilometers an hour again. Wow, it's pretty cool. And again, how effortless and silent this acceleration is being delivered. So very good. And now to our conclusion for today with the all-new Peugeot 2008 and the E2008. Has been a very interesting 2 days here with those cars. And I have to say, exterior-wise, it's actually quite daring, different than the competitors. Quite strong and modern in the design. It's a little bit longer than before, so you have more interior space. That is a significant change to the predecessor, especially that you now have some, real rear leg room. This is pretty cool. Then also the styling on the interior is pretty daring. So a very modern cockpit layout with some different ideas. Especially in the GT trim, you also have those great sporty seats. So the GT trim is also the one to go for if you want something really fancy. Yeah, pricing wise, it will start pretty attractive with a normal petrol engine with about 22,000 euros, taking German reference prices. The top one then 35,000, the GT with the top petrol engine. And then you always have everything in what you already need. And then this is also the starting price, about 35,000 for the electric version, up to 42,000 here in the GT trim. So the difference, more or less, will be about 8,000 euros then from the top GT petrol spec to the top E2008. And it depends on it. It's definitely more expensive, yes. If you take governmental subsidiaries in comparison then, and also some taxation benefits, this can actually even out the difference then. At the end of the day, well, it's more about than the driving, and has been great with both ICE and EV. This vehicle is extreme fun. So it's really a lot of fun to drive this one. Yeah, I feel somewhat cramped as a tall person in the interior. I have enough space, yes, but like from seat position wise, interestingly, especially due to those GT seats, I did not get any back pain overall, although I felt cramped a little bit, so it was actually quite fine in the end of the day. With this iCockpit with a small steering wheel, that has some disadvantages as for the visibility somewhat, and space for your legs and the steering wheel, but yet again, due to the small steering wheel and this arcade-alike gaming characteristic, it was so much fun to drive. Then of course this new platform, and also with a low center of gravity here with the EV. Driving the EV and the petrol engine felt, not too different actually. This one here, yeah, a little bit more weight, but then also a little bit more connection to the weight at the ground. So both were actually a lot of fun to drive. This one here and the EV, of course, with a more silent drive. It's up to you. And I think it would really matter the charging infrastructure. And are you predominantly going short ways and have charging infrastructure? EV way to go. If you're more like go also on longer journeys and so on, charging infrastructure not that good, with your household, then the petrol is still the way to go. Yeah, and the petrol is also actually quite high in fuel economy, quite high in the fuel consumption for this size of a vehicle. EV, it was really hard to get a realistic figure. It will drain the battery when it's cold, that's clear, although they're also using a heat pump here, so we have to see how that one plays out on the long run. But you don't calculate a range that you would say I really see, there's 10 kilometers more or less. You need a charging infrastructure and have, always to have a buffer that you don't get any range anxiety. Overall, I think this car is a very nice offer, also price performance-wise, both in the petrol and in the EV version. But what's your take? Please discuss this car here with us and tell us, petrol, diesel or EV, which one would you actually go for? The Mazda CX-30 Skyactiv X. Let's go! In the front we can see here this three-dimensional shape. This is a dot-style grille with this glossy black paint, and the cool thing is they don't make that just exclusive to a sports version or something. This is standard equipment. Also LED headlamps are standard equipment. Optional, you can get the Matrix LED also for more high beam functionality. 4,39 m, 14'4" or 173 inches is the length. That's 12 centimeters or 5 inches longer than the CX-3. Or 15 centimeters or 6 inches shorter than the CX-5. And 17.5 centimeters is the ground clearance, by the way. So, it's not the true off-road SUV, but some soft off-road capabilities. Why not? Especially because we also have the all-wheel drive model here today. Basically a front-wheel driven platform, so it will be also torque on demand on the rear. That's how it works. Wheels come either with 16-inch or then directly the jump to 18-inch. 16 if you want more riding comfort. In the rear we can see a nice light signature right there, and also Skyactiv X logo for this special petrol engine that combines actually a base petrol engine with a self-ignition of a diesel engine at some point. As for engines, there's a 1.8 liter turbo diesel, 116 horsepower, front-wheel drive only. Then there's a 2 liter petrol engine, naturally aspirated, 122 horsepower, also available with all-wheel drive, or now the version also with 150 horsepower of that. And then there's a 2 liter Skyactiv X engine here today, this petrol engine that combines also diesel technology with 180 horsepower, also optionally available with all-wheel drive. And in the US you get a 2.5 liter naturally aspirated engine with 186 horsepower. You either have this brown scheme when you pick the animal skin, also here with the animal skin seats. They are of course optional in the price, and they are hotter in summer and cooler in winter, so that's not really desired. Stick with the base fabric seats, they are actually also more comfortable, and they also come with a nice blue leatherette setup then, for example on the dashboard. That's actually pretty fancy. And they also work on the basic ergonomics form of the seats, that's also very interesting. Getting inside, fairly easy, and that's also an advantage if you compare it to the CX-3, the smaller brother. Here you already have this, more spacious feeling, the upright seating position. Also, comparing to the Mazda 3, this one here, you just sit more comfortable because of the upright seating position. That's actually pretty cool. Interior overview, soft touch material here, leatherette material. That's actually quite fancy. Also with the climate unit. I like to have it still physical, that's really cool. So when the car is turned off, the instruments look all black. When you turn it on, you see everything comes to life, and then you can see on the left and the right side it's just illuminated, but on the middle part it's a digital screen actually. And there's the head-up display, also standard equipment, awesome. It's not too big, but actually pretty crisp and clear to read. And here we go then with the details to see how the CarPlay integration looks like, and this optional Bose sound system is quite good. I mean, not like the super top-notch system, but I mean, quite satisfied with that. So if you are a music lover, you should actually go for that. So then you can go back to the Mazda menu, like here. The rear camera looks like this. It's a decent resolution and also takes all of the screen, so that's good. And you also have a drone view from above if you want, or if you order one, for additional overview. And in the lower middle console you find the sport mode, talking about that while we drive the car. And then there's a central control knob, turning and pressing, GPS hotkey, going back, everything. And then the main home button and the music selection. And then you can also program some favorites if you like. Let's get in the rear. Hard pack at the inside of the doors here, and there's not too much legroom left. It always depends on how your seat is set to the front. How much, how far away you sit from the steering wheel and how tall the driver is. But as my seating set up here at the moment, I don't have, sufficient legroom left. So the trunk is open right here. It's about 430 liters of capacity, and that's what we got here. Pretty square dimensions. Below that is the sound system mounted. In this case, you could also put a replacement tire if you don't have the big sound system. General driving feeling of this car is very neutral, so to say. We also felt it with the Mazda 3, which shares the same platform. In comparison to the Mazda 3, you do sit more upright. That's more relaxing, so it's more comfortable than the Mazda 3. That's also why I prefer going for this one. Then again, the Mazda 3 feels a little bit sportier, so that's definitely a trade-off. But I mean, it's still somewhat agile, so no doubt about that. And they got a very natural steering feeling. That's, I think, something very good what they have accomplished. So you don't feel that the ratio would be messed up or something. The only thing, when you are here going over some bumps and so on, probably the only thing I do criticize with this vehicle, that the suspension is not top-notch. So it's not the super worst one or something, but you feel that some competitors here, for example the VW T-Roc, when you pick the DCC, dynamic chassis control in there, adaptive suspension, it's really way better than this one here. However, what this one, for example, does way better than the T-Roc, that it comes with so much standard equipment. That's just so fair to the customer, and don't have to like configure the car all day and then be dissatisfied at the end of the day anyway. This one, like with most of the equipment, it's already in there, and that's really so cool. I really praise Mazda for that. So again, natural steering feeling. Suspension could be a little bit more comfortable when running over some bumps. That's probably the only thing I found, let's say, negative with this vehicle. Other than that, I see a good head-up display, which is also standard, like, wow, who does that? Crisp view, even though it's so small, but it's totally fine. Not missing so much that I'm, not touching the screen. I mean, I can't reach it here anyway. It's also not meant to be, so it's not a touchscreen, as I said earlier, but controlling that while driving is pretty easy. The menu and so on, everything's pretty simple. And now it's time to go sport. I put in the sport mode, then the gears are turned a little bit higher. We're heading onto the motorway, and I will accelerate as soon as it goes straight, that don't have like this uphill bias, that you really know what's going on. 50 kilometers an hour to 100, so like 25 miles to 60 miles. Let's see. Let's let this car pass. We don't annoy anyone. And now blind spot monitor. And now let's go. Plop, that's it. So you see, it's also not the fastest car here with the Skyactiv X, but definitely a better punch than with the naturally aspirated engines. So that's really good to have, especially when driving on the motorway. And I mean, the sound wasn't also too bad. So yeah, I mean, why not? So with the naturally aspirated engine you get in the US at 2.5, the acceleration wouldn't be as, let's say, spontaneous as with the Skyactiv X, but you have this high displacement, rather sonorous linear power output. That's what I find cool. So the overall characteristic of the Skyactiv X engine is rather, again, the blind spot monitor, by the way, it's very well positioned as well. You can see it very well. And I mean, in the Mazda 3, it's even more crucial, but here it's also good to have it. And in European markets, you have it with standard equipment, and in the US, you have to go for the second trim level, like one trim level above. So I think that's still somewhat fair. When you go back to the non-sports mode, so normal mode, car is a little bit calmer again. I can see the speed in the weather rail and the digital instruments, but also again in the head-up display, pretty cool. Stable characteristics here also on the motorway, so not leaning very much to the left and the right. So it gives me, again, this very good neutrally balanced handling. Also, because we have the all-wheel drive, more torque was being sent to the rear wheel, so I had a more even acceleration out. That's of course cool. Do you really need the all-wheel drive? Well, if you are in regions, weather conditions where you have a lot of snow, maybe slippery conditions and so on, that might be something. The majority of customers will not need it. If you really need it, again, when you're in other some alpine conditions, or maybe like you live in Minnesota or something, and yeah, probably go for it. But other than that, you'll be also fine without the all-wheel drive. Now we're getting to a roundabout and doing some handling. Let's see how that one turns out, and see also how I turn the steering wheel and how we behave in the corners right there. Don't have to turn that much. Could be a little bit more progressive, but again, a very natural feeling. Car behaves very well in the corner. Of course, the Mazda 3 would be a little bit sporty here, but the cool thing is that, it's not a super expensive car, not super extraordinary something, but you already have a fun car. It's fun to drive. Well, by the way, in this rainy conditions outside today, I really enjoy having the heated steering wheel here. I just love that, when driving in wintertime and so on. I mean, when you accelerate out, you don't have a rear-wheel bias or something. This is still mainly front-wheel driven platform. So you have some torque at the rear wheels, yes. That gives it a little bit more agility when accelerating out of the corners. But again, since most of the time you're not hammering this car all the way, it's not the biggest difference than front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive. And we already had like an acceleration in here, and we have the automatic and the overdrive, and we're still at about 7 liters and more kilometers as for the fuel economy, and we scored that also earlier in other tests, and that's really a decent figure, you know. So considering it's an SUV, an automatic, all-wheel drive, and the Skyactiv XCeed, you know, it's not that you would consume so much, like less than with the other engines, but consider this is a more powerful engine, and then we also have the additional features in here, and it doesn't consume much more. And now to our conclusion for today with the Mazda CX-30 Skyactiv X. First of all, exterior, a fresh look. Yeah, the big wheel cladding on the side profile, you know, you could argue about that, but overall I think a very contemporary look, and they really have very cool colors. For example, this is Magma Red for today. It's one of the best price performance vehicles on the market, I think, if you keep it rather, you know, low and mid spec, because so much is already in the standard equipment. That's something, you know, Mazda has really done very well. It's very fair to the customer. I think in US I would stick with the 2.5 liter naturally aspirated engine, and in Europe I would probably go with the 150 horsepower petrol engine. The Skyactiv X is of course a little bit more fun, a little bit cooler, more spontaneous to drive, but again it also costs extra. Cool is that it doesn't exceed much in the fuel economy, you know, so you have more power, but you don't have really more consumption. So that's actually a cool aspect about that. On the other hand, the, let's say, normal naturally aspirated petrol engine have the easier technology, so at the moment I would trust it a little bit more as well. Then interior, great build quality. Best is to go with the standard fabric seats, and then also, for example, with this blue leather red, which is an awesome choice definitely, and it also keeps the price then low. Again, most of the equipment is already inside. In the US I would go for the mid-trim to get also the blind spot monitor. That's very important. We get that from standard equipment in Europe. Other than that, the car is almost already fully equipped, already at the base version. That's again a really, really cool thing. The offering of space on the interior is also, let's say, quite okay. It's maybe they're a little bit better in some of the competitors. You have a more upright seating position than in the Mazda 3. They share the same platform. Here a little bit less sporty ride, but then again a little bit more comfort, sitting more upright. That's pretty cool. You have not a huge car, but already a very good long-term comfort for the front seats. That's, I think, very good. And then, I mean, the overall package, together with the natural driving feeling, how like steering input is. The manual gearbox are also pretty well done. So automatic, if you're often stuck in traffic, for more comfort, and that manual gearbox will also do a good job. So the whole, you know, feeling, connection driver, car and the road is very cool also here in the Mazda. The suspension could be a little bit more comfortable. So if you're okay with the smaller wheel visual, go for the 16-inch wheels. It doesn't look that fancy, but it will give you more riding comfort. Here with the 18-inch wheels, they look cooler, but then again, a little bit less comfort. You have to decide it on your own. The all-new Nissan Juke. Please subscribe if you haven't done so far, and let's go. The new Nissan Juke is still built in Sunderland in the UK, but it sits on an all-new platform that promises more stiffness in riding, for example. We'll see out how it plays out later for the driving part. In the front you can see, well, it's maybe not that dramatic as before. This car has always, you know, actually been love or hate, something like that. But most people loved it, therefore it has been sold over 1 million times. The length of this new generation, 4 meters 21, 13 foot 8, or 166 inches. That's 8 centimeters or 3 inches more than before. And the wheel size start with 16-inch steel, then 17-inch aluminum, and those ones directly in the N design pack, 19-inch, the biggest ones available. We'll see out how that plays out for the riding comfort. Also with black accentuations, look pretty cool. Then the crossover cladding right there, and also this N design pack with the glossy black elements here in the lower area. Other than that, also typical Juke style, then with contrasting roofs available. Soon I will also show you some other colors. You can tell me which one is your favorite for today. Here, of course, it works very well with the white and black contrast to be even more dramatic. There we see it. You know, this wing-alike style or this table style here in the back. It seems to be a design scheme at the moment with Japanese cars. However, you know, this one here also built in Europe. But let's say, you know, with Japanese headquarters, manufacturers, that they really put this design where they make this, you know, falling window in the rear and then create this huge area right there. It looks more dramatic, definitely, and also those tail lamps stand out really very strongly. This is a standard Nissan Khaki, nothing special. Yeah, maybe something more joyful would have been cool for the new Juke, but yeah, that's it, and at least it's light. You can also use the keyless entry here with pressing the button right there. Open and close, and then door closing sound in the front. Very solid, and that speaks for this new build quality they have here with the new Juke. Yes, the inside of the doors and top part, that is hard pack, but what's cool, you have an ambient light integration right there in this gap, and then this special N design line also in the interior has a nice soft leatherette cover. It feels like in the Mercedes CLA or in the Mercedes A-Class, maybe the same supplier, so no one would guess that it's not animal sourced. It's really high grade leatherette, really cool, animal friendly, more sustainable, less CO2 output, but still feels really great. Those inside buttons, they don't feel that good, but it's cool that we now look at details with the Nissan Juke as for build quality, because in, you know, a lot of different steps it has been massively upgraded. Inside of the doors here also bigger bottles do fit, and then you can see this one, this special black and white design line fits so well to the exterior. You don't have to go for it. I'll soon also show you a more subtle version. Here, white leatherette at the dashboard. Interesting, also soft touch leatherette black and black on top here. Then also soft touch plastics here on top of the dashboard behind it. This new steering wheel, which looks a little bit sportier than before. This special button to activate the assistance system. As for the extensive ACC with the lane assist, we'll test it out in the driving part. Then getting inside, you have a new ergonomic seating position. Those sports seats here, or sporty seats, are also good for taller people actually, and way more ergonomic seating comfort than the previous generations. That's one of the main things I like about this new generation. So before, I wasn't very comfortable feeling in the Juke, but here that's actually quite fine. Seat in a lowest position here, that leaves a lot of headroom still with one of these 86 or 601. For a little bit better seating comfort, I usually like pump it up your 1 or 2 or 3 times, and then, you know, sit a little bit more upright as for that. Steering wheel can be adjusted 2 ways, like this, and also they found a good process for that. You can really find a nice seating position, so everything really feels more refined than before and more ergonomic, more comfortable. That's probably the best thing about this new interior. The interior is mainly about this new build quality. Here again, this high-class leatherette dashboard, really cool, feels so soft and nice. And for example, also here, you know, this round vent style, it looks good, and they even have a nice clicking sound when you open and close. So pretty amazing, and also this manual climate unit that you can still access very well. Yeah, Jonas said it feels a little bit like a 90s stereo or something, like a hi-fi equipment. I really like the haptic feedback. Yeah, maybe because I'm also like a kid of the 90s. So with every step you have like click, click, click. Not like really much acoustic, but just how you feel it. So massively step up the game as for the this input quality, how you interact with the car, and I really, really like that. Then the steering wheel also has a good size overall. Again, right side to set the adaptive cruise control, which is an option. AEB, the autonomous emergency brake, would be standard already. Left side for the volume, and you can also control this digital screen. Soon we'll also take a detailed look to the digital screen together with the analog dials right and left. And well, this central dash then here on the right again. This is the new 8-inch touchscreen right there, and the software still looks somehow dated already. Yeah, that's always a problem. We see that a lot with the Japanese manufacturers, that they do a lot of things really great, but then the software of the infotainment system is always dated. I have no idea why. So, and then here left and right analog, speedometer and the RPMs, and in the middle then you have some digital information, for example the digital speed. That's actually quite clear and nice to read, or you can check your music or the settings for the assistance systems and so on, and it's also clear to read. So it's a mix of classic and more modern. Then I showed you before, really a clever integration right there, and the same styling here, and then the N design pack, hard pack here, but then the soft leather right there. And if you have the Bose sound system, this one here is just a blind speaker, although it looks like that, but it's not active. Yeah, very funny. In the bass sound system it will be active then, but you don't need it in the Bose sound system anymore. And here again the nice styling also for the rear compartment with this black and white mix. And since the wheelbase has been increased, you also have some more leg room. And it's also good that you put the seat a little bit higher, than your feet fit well under it. And I mean, it's not a super long car, but still the package is quite okay, and you can fit 4 tall adults here, especially as for the headroom. I can even put a hand over my head. That still works, so not plenty of space, but it's decently comfortable. With 420 liters of capacity, the boot is also more voluminous than before, and you have some variation right there. There's this loading floor, you can put it out completely if you like, or you can just store it in the very low area, and that's good because then you have more height available, so it will very well fit here also with a backpack. And what about the engines? Well, there is only one, so easy for us, easy for you, and they obviously didn't put an engine cover here yet, so I mean also good for you. Then we can see a little bit more of this engine, and this is a 1-liter 3-cylinder turbo petrol engine, 117 horsepower, either a 6-speed manual gearbox or a 7-speed dual clutch transmission. Yes, you heard it correctly, because there were some comments in our initial static review like, oh, again the CVT, there was a horrible automatic gearbox. No, this one here, if you go automatic, then a dual clutch transmission, a really new one that should improve also the automatic driving comfort. The acceleration figures, they differ just a little bit. So it's either 10.4 seconds to 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour with the manual gearbox, or 11.1 seconds for the DCT. So in this case, dual clutch transmission is slower. Usually it's the other way around, but here they put a different gear ratio for the DCT to make it a little more comfortable in the ride. So there, that explains this 0.7 seconds acceleration difference. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge with the all-new Nissan Juke, and we're here at the Montserrat Mountains, winding roads close to Barcelona, and we want to test the new agility of the Juke. This new platform was promising us more agile driving fun, and I have to say, indeed, the car does feel a little bit more agile than the previous generation. A little bit stiffer as for the chassis, you feel that. Here with those 19-inch wheels, we also have a connection to the road. Yeah, you will lose some comfort definitely in everyday driving life, but still, this normal standard suspension, just one that is available for the Juke, and so far it feels like a good compromise. So it doesn't feel too soft, yet it doesn't feel uncomfortable. So suspension wise, this is probably one of the best upgrades. However, if there are some uneven parts on the road, then you do feel you have normal suspension, non-adaptive, and you have those 19-inch wheels, which are somewhat a little bit, not that forgiving then in this case. But still, as long as the road is good, it's all nice. And you see maybe also from the steering input, that feels quite natural, quite good. I don't have to steer that much, so the steering is quite progressive. I like that. I can keep my hands on the steering wheel, both hands on the steering wheel all the time, so pretty nice. Really like the steering setup they found here. The manual gearbox, which will be driven by most customers. That's also the reason I chose that one here as a primary vehicle today. Because I always want to see what are the most guys going for. And shifting ways could be maybe a little bit shorter, but it's overall okay. Has a quite crisp feedback, so rather a sporty feedback than a smooth one. You maybe notice that on camera there's also not too much body roll. So that's also quite good. Here's some slalom. Again, pretty decent. So indeed, this new generation does offer you more sporty driving fun. Really like that. So maybe a little bit like in the base version, like one of the sporty versions before. And the brakes are really crisp and sharp, I like that. So I like when cars have a direct brake pedal feedback, because usually in some situations you not exactly sure if you brake enough. So it's better when they react directly, and then it's also safer for you. So very nice to steer this car around here. Definitely a nice character driving wise. This 1 liter 3-cylinder engine, it doesn't have much power. However, in situations where don't city something, it's totally fine. And you can also use this turbo, just shift a gear down, then it has a peculiar sound, definitely, those 3-cylinder engines. And now to some motorway driving, because that's of course also very important. At the moment we are at about 100 kilometers an hour or 62 miles an hour, and noise insulation is a little bit better than before. It's, let's say, decent, but it's not that we would say it's like super silent. That's also not the main feature of this vehicle, but still is quite okay. And it delivers us, definitely a decent calm ride overall. Not sure what that was, but what's very interesting, you can either set the normal cruise control, or on the right side of the steering wheel, then, as I told you earlier, you can set this, extensive autopilot. Well, it's not a real autopilot, but as far as it goes here. And that means that the steering is being overtaken while you should keep your hands at the steering wheel. And also the adaptive cruise control rules everything. However, here with the manual gearbox, it's of course not reducing the speed until 0, because it would stall the engine. So it's even working better than with the auto gearbox. Now we are at about 120 kilometers an hour. And still noise insulation is okay. As I said, it's not that I would say it's best in segment or something, but it's still quite decent. And now to our conclusion for today with the all-new Nissan Juke. The exterior, a little bit less polarizing than before, but I think that's actually a good step, because also to me, I like this one here definitely more. And the feedback we got so far with the static review was actually very, very positive. There will be still some splitting in love or hate, but I mean, it's a worldwide success definitely. With this car, just look at the sales figures. This, is really selling literally in millions. Interesting. Well, and then on the interior, since the car is a little bit bigger than before, you have especially more rear legroom. That's good and important for everyday using this car. Massive step up in the interior build quality. So a lot of single elements. They are really very well done now. And the best we've seen from all Nissan cars so far. So they really made a big step ahead. Also with the infotainment system. Yeah, that you have a good Apple CarPlay and Android Auto connection. Interesting also with the special Bose speakers there. If you go for that option, the rest of the infotainment system, yeah, is not that much up to date as for software, but probably you will rely on your smartphone connection anyway. Also in driving, more agile driving feeling for this car, feels more refined than before. Even if you go for the automatic gearbox, you now have a proper DCT automatic transmission, so this will also help. In general, the driving feeling is a little bit crisper, even in those standard versions, and especially suspension comfort has been increased together with the better seating comfort. That's probably the most important thing to me about this vehicle. Fuel consumption here with this one engine that is available, about 7 liters on 1 kilometer is a realistic one. That is, 30 something mpg in US or close to 40 mpg UK. I think you can also live with that. That's normal for a car of that size with a turbo petrol engine. So it won't consume you less just because it's a small engine. Downsizing doesn't necessarily mean less fuel consumption. Is the downsizing here okay? I mean, yeah, they try to keep the price of the car low. That's also one reason why it's so successful, because you have a car that has some joy, but still is not that expensive, and especially joy also in the interior. Here, especially with this very car, with the fabric leather red mix in black and white, and also black white exterior, this is so so well fitting together, and also sustainable and animal friendly materials on the interior. We've seen here a couple of different combinations today, so I think that's really something pretty cool. And I like when something can be special in cars that are still somewhat affordable, and not only in those high-class premium cars. Yeah, and then back to the engine where I was coming to. This one here is actually enough for this kind of car. Yeah, if you want to accelerate on the motorway, that can lack some power. So yeah, a bigger, powerful engine might be a nice option to go for. But you can also understand that they try to make it lean from the whole options and engine lineup. That's then maybe also again good for the customer, that you can keep this base price. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to live with that. For most purposes it will be okay, just cannot expect a superb acceleration. Thank you so much for tuning in today to Autogefuhl. Maybe also check out our static review, that was also interesting. We also showed different trims there and so on, different surrounding and so on. And also competitors of this car. A Toyota CHR, for example, would be one you could check out. And yeah, they also resemble a little bit in the design. The new Kia XCeed. Let's go. Well, here in the front of the Kia XCeed, you can see you have this silver meshed grille and also silver accentuations in the lower part. It does remind us of the seat, but it still has an own styling. Here's these curved headlamps. They come with LED as standard in this version. 4.39 m, 14'4" or 173 inches is the length of the Kia XCeed. And you can see here this plastic crossover wheel arches, together in this case here with 18-inch wheels. It's an option. You can also go with 16-inch wheels. It depends on what is more important to you, a softer ride or the greater visual factor. So you could decide that on your own. A very interesting rear design as well, with this special XCeed logo, then pretty slim tail lamps with an interesting LED signature. Then the lower end again has the silver contrast, but these are pure fake exhaust. The real exhaust is underneath, but I think the design is still quite fresh. What's your take? As engines, you have a 1 liter petrol engine with 120 horsepower. This one here, the 1.4 liter with 140 horsepower. Then there's a 1.6 liter with 204 horsepower. They're all turbocharged, and the bigger ones also have a 7-speed DCT optional. And then there's also diesel 1.6 liter with 115 or with 136 horsepower. And new also that the 1.6 petrol can be combined with a plug-in hybrid version and with 141 horsepower system output. That will also be quite exciting. Then the interior, soft touch here at the inside of the doors, also leather red and the inside there, so good build quality, everything very solid here. Memory seat with 2 saving spots, XCeed floor mats, aluminum pedals. You can get pure fabric seats or these fabric leather red mix, so leather red on the outside, fabric on the inside. Here also with a special edition, belongs to the launch model as well, with this honeycomb style structure with the contrast stitches, and this is indeed fabric. It doesn't look like it, but it is actually. So a very fancy, unique setup. Finally someone is daring. I mean, it's really cool, I think. You have to like it, definitely, also color-wise. Maybe yellow is not my favorite color, but this yellow fits, of course, to the exterior color. And Thomas B, our other Thomas here, cameraman, will really love that, because these are the colors of his favorite football club, Borussia Dortmund, and all other Dortmund fans will probably love that color setup as well. Then steering wheel can be controlled manually, up and down, in and out. Everything feels and looks very solid, so pretty satisfied with that. As for the maximum headroom, I'm 1.86 m or 6'1". If I put the seat all the way down, there's still plenty of headroom left. I tend to put it a little bit higher so they have a better angle, you know, so it's not falling backwards. I think it's a very comfortable seating position. These fabric seats here stay cool in summer and they are also not too cold in winter. So that's definitely a good choice, and also visual-wise, as I said, very attractive. Again, you have to like the yellow color. I would wish that there would maybe be like different colors. For example, you can also pick like a blue stitching or something. That would be maybe something for the future. Interior overview, again, good quality materials, soft touch at the top part here, top infotainment system and digital instruments, soon more to that. This part here is also soft touch, separate climate unit still, very easy to control and to see. Heated steering wheel function or heated seat, so straightforward in design. This is what the Golf used to be, and it seems to be that the Kia XCeed somehow takes the place of the Golf as, let's say, you know, the straightforward to use vehicle. Pretty interesting. Manual gearbox here today. There's also a DCT optional. The lower part here has an inductive charging platform, top part here, but you can, well, usually would put in the cable to use the Apple CarPlay, as you can see here. Then lower part with the USB device and more 12-volt power supply, and another USB charging device just for charging. You can also close that if you like. More in the lower part, adaptive cup holders, electric park and brake, and some more space underneath here. Reasonable under the armrest, and the armrest also very well fixed. By the way, this part here and the top is also again soft touch, so everything with the straightforward and good in build quality. Steering wheel, right side for the cruise control, for example, and control something of the digital instruments. Left side mainly for the volume and picking up the phone. And with the digital instruments, you would start analog, and then with a 3.5-inch screen in the middle. Optional then a 4.2-inch screen, a little bit bigger in the middle, and then these are the full digital instruments, 12.3-inch. And on the right side here, you would start with a 5-inch screen. Then there's a bigger one available with 8-inch. That would also include then the Apple CarPlay already. And this is the optional 10.25-inch screen. Is it really necessary? Not exactly. If you mainly use CarPlay, then you'll also be fine with the 8-inch. Yes, the front seat is in a position where it's forward and not backward due to this comfort feature, and still that does not leave us so much legroom. It does somehow work for 4 tall Ls, but when I'm driving in the front, you see I do hit the front seat with my knees already. It's not too bad because it's a soft background. Headroom wise, that's no problem, still some space left. By the way, hard pack at the rear doors, but I think we can live with that as for the price performance ratio. So this is awesome. Introduced with the Hyundai Tucson in 2015, I think. See here, I just approached the vehicle from the rear with a key in my pocket, and ta-da, it opens itself even without a foot kick opening mechanism. That's really awesome. So great to have that function. A lot of space underneath. You could also fit a replacement tire. Some measurements right here. The length is at 85 centimeters. Hey, what's up? Joining us here for Thomas's driving lounge in the Kia XCeed. Or XCeed, however you pronounce it. So the 1.4 liter turbo petrol engine, in this case with 140 horsepower. We're also going to talk about the general driving features of this vehicle. And let me start with a, let's say, general assessment. This car really sets also some kind of a standard. So something we usually say, for example, from Volkswagen Golf in this segment, this one here also has so many different aspects where you can say, yeah, this is how it's supposed to be, and judging on that level, we can say this or this competitor vehicle is better or worse in certain aspects. But here, so to say, you drive it and control everything and, you know, do your stuff with steering, shifting and so on, and feeling suspension, and you say like, pretty much everything is just right, you know? So there's nothing we can really, you know, say like, oh, have to massively improve this or that. There are some improvements you could do. Going to talk about that. But the basic impression is just very, very solid, very good. So also a comparison here, the XCeed to the normal seat. Yeah, you sit a little, like seat with C and seat, where sitting on is always funny. But indeed, the XCeed to seat is a difference in the seat. Yeah, I hope you got that now. So yeah, since they are sitting 4 centimeters higher or 1.5 inches higher, talked about that earlier, it's also somewhat a more, you know, there's a cozier driving feeling, a little bit more relaxed. The suspension is also not too stiff, so it's a good compromise between sportiness and comfort. So it's not too shaky or something. It is, you know, crisp enough, but it's also not harsh that you would feel every bump on the road or so. So I think found a good setup here. They do not offer an adaptive suspension. That's not available. Yet again, you don't have to pay anything extra then for any suspension. I think you can be happy with the normal suspension here. The sport models, the GT, for example, the Ceed GT, that one could use an adaptive suspension that there's more, you know, span between comfort and sportiness. But here the, let's say, non-sport models, I think you're just fine with the normal suspension here as well. The steering wheel is set up in a direct way, so you don't have to steer that much. You have a good feeling. There's no dead zone whatsoever. Noise insulation here at lower speeds is absolutely fine. We'll soon also approach the motorway and see what about noise insulation there. Quality of materials, talked about that earlier, is also very good. So what you feel and control, everything from the input is also very solid. And you have an overall good and cozy, safe feeling in the vehicle. Some of the safety equipment is standard. Most of that is optional. We're going to talk about the lane assist when we're on the motorway very soon. We also have the blind spot monitor in here, which we can also show you on the motorway very soon as well. Shifting wise, it's very easy to shift, quite long the shifting lever, but the wheels click in a very satisfying way, and they also don't have much resistance. Yet again, not totally free floating, so I think they also found a good solution right there. The optional dual clutch transmission would be good for, you know, more relaxation in traffic and so on, that you don't have to give it so much clutch. Yeah, I mean, in the first gear when starting, you have to use quite a lot of clutch or quite a lot of gas, so you don't stall it. You have to get used to that. That's different from vehicle to vehicle. Then in the higher gears, this is not such a problem anymore, but you definitely get used to it. So you can buy this one as a manual gearbox. You know, won't be that bad, not at all. Of course, again, automatic transmission always gives you a little bit more driving comfort. Suspension, again, yeah, I mean, if you would have an adaptive suspension, it would bring you more comfort, I think. So suspension-wise, again, all good, but Not that I would say it has the best suspension in segment. That's maybe something they could still improve. And as I said earlier, with this vehicle you really have to search for things where you could suggest them to still improve things. Most of the other stuff is really already very well done. As for fuel economy, you can score some realistic figures of 7 liters on 100 kilometers or 34 mpg US, 41 mpg UK. A little bit worse, so a little bit less mpg, or a little bit like 7.5 liters on 100 kilometers when you are driving a little bit faster on the motorway. Who would do that? Or when you drive a little bit more city traffic and so on. So that depends. Yeah, not the best fuel economy, but also not the worst. So that's somehow also standard, so to say. This could be a little bit better. Everything else, really very cool. And one thing I like best is the straightforward design of the commands. So when I want to activate the seat heating or the steering wheel heating, this is so easily done, with the separate buttons. And again, yes, thank you so much that we still have separate buttons here. And so now, before we're going all the way down to 50, third gear. Third gear is not really proper for 50. So let's see. Let those guys overtake. We have a little bit downhill situations now, but from 50 in second gear and then go to third. Let's go. That's 100 with a little bit downhill. So you can see, yeah, I have to push this one a little bit, but still okay from the performance, And now at 100 kilometers an hour or 60 miles an hour, again, still a good noise insulation. So there's not a massive amount of rolling tire noise or wind noise. So we also have a good result in this case. And again, it's not really punishing you when you're driving like a long motorway period and so on. And I just returned from the US again, and it's always you drive so much highway hours there, because distances are just longer than, for example, in Europe, especially in Germany. That how a car performs on the motorway is really a very essential point for a lot of customers. And now to our conclusion for today with the Kia XCeed. Well, first of all, it's a fresh exterior. This crossover look does work with the seat platform, yes, especially in this golden color, something pretty unique. And also from the exterior features, you already see a solid build quality that continues on the interior then, so really very well built. So hardly anything we can really criticize there, and a very straightforward design that is of course very, very cool. That means you can control everything in a very easy and straightforward way, still with a lot of separate buttons. I really like that. Not everything needs to be done in the infotainment system. Optionally, you can go for a lot of infotainment options, but you'll also be fine with the lower spec versions, so to keep the price still lower a little bit. And this is about 5k extra if you compare it to the normal Kia Ceed, but it already comes with more standard equipment. So overall, for example, German price 21 to 34k depending on the equipment and the engine and so on. And I think you can still score a very decent price performance ratio, and to me also one of the best price performance ratios in the compact segment or compact hatch segment overall at the moment. This little bit higher riding, 4 centimeters or 1.5 inches or seating position, is I think very good, so it gives a little bit more comfort without giving you much less fun in driving or something. So I think it's still a good compromise, and I think this crossover version will also be quite successful. Fuel economy could be a little bit better, suspension maybe also a little bit better. Then again, if you're not into the visuals that much, you could go for 16-inch wheels instead of the 18 one, and then you also have a little softer riding quality. Overall, I think a very, very solid performance here. Pretty liked it. What about you?
The new updated Toyota CHR. Let's go!
Yes, a facelift also means changes on the exterior, as it is called. And by the way, please subscribe if you haven't done so far. And thanks again for all long-term subscribers. Here, what have they done? So they made the styling a little bit more bold in the front. That means here the lower grille is a little bit wider. Then the fog lamps, they went to the outside here. And also you can get either this contrasting spoiler lip or it comes in vehicle color depending on the trim. Then also the headlamps changed a little bit from the signature. LED is standard, both front and rear actually. And you can see this is the daytime running light in the top part, then the main LED unit right there. And this one here, the daytime running light, changes to the turning indicator. So this is basically one unit, so also quite interesting. It looks a little bit fresher, a little bit stronger than before. 4.39 m, 14'4" or 173 inches is the length of the Toyota CHR. So small or compact, depending on the definition, crossover or small SUV, again, also depending on your definition. And it has a really, screaming out side profile. That's also why people buy it. So 43% of all customers buy it because of the design. You can also get a dual tone roof as this one here in black, but now available since the facelift is also that you can get a metal gray contrasting roof color that might also fit here to the blue, well, nebula blue exterior color. Very interesting. And here, of course, the most spectacular falling roof line. Yeah, this will limit the trunk, of course, also with this huge wing right here, but that's also what makes the design screaming out. Here, integrated handles for the rear doors. We, of course, go in depth on the interior very soon. So, I'm always totally honest with you guys. And I really have to say, when I saw the CHR for the very, very first time, I would think like, what the hell is this? But I always have to say, sometimes those cars grow a little bit on you. And now, meanwhile, I rather think, yeah, it's definitely still special. But I also like it when cars are not boring, But definitely this is splitting opinions quite a lot. What do you think? Here now in the facelift, what have they done? There's a new black element here on the top part, this, second wing, so to say, that goes all the way from right to left or from left to right over the vehicle. And also new signature here for the tail lamps. They also come with LED technology. And they also feature a cascading indicator light. Also quite interesting. As for engines, you start with a 1.2-liter petrol turbo engine with about 120 horsepower and just about 11 seconds to 1 kilometers or 62 miles an hour in the acceleration. Then you have the 1.8-liter hybrid, made it to a naturally aspirated engine, also around 120 horsepower and also somewhat the same acceleration figure. That one also has an update. And then there's the new 2-liter hybrid, which you see here with about 180 horsepower, and this one is 3 seconds faster in the acceleration, so around 8 seconds is the acceleration figure right there. So that's definitely a massive power output difference. This is the car key. By the way, CHR stands for Coupe High Rider. Yeah, some naming guys played in the kindergarten there, I guess. So, yeah, but you also have a keyless entry. You can put your thumb out there. At the moment, the car is complaining because the ignition is on. Then you can also open it again and hear the door closing sound. That sounds a little bit weird. So, yeah, obviously didn't pay attention to the door closing sound. But what they paid attention to is now more soft touch materials. For example, also soft touch at the inside of the doors. That's new. This one, we've seen it so far, but I think it's really cool here in this trim. It's a hard material, but it is structured. And also then with blue accentuations right there. So it looks really cool, feels cool. Then a leather red right there. So really upgrade the materials. Slim door pocket, not so well to use. Then the rest of the interior is also very interesting here with those blue decor elements right there. And then a blue or purple leather red. So it's also cool. So really good materials they put right there. Steering wheel can be controlled up and down and also in reach. I'll show that to you very soon. Infotainment system upgrade, soon more to that. Then, as for the seats, you start with a fabric seat as base if you want to go for the lower spec, but they are also just fine. This one would be an upgrade then here with Alcantara on the inside. On the outer parts, I did not get the exact information yet, but some should be leatherette, some should be real animals, so at least the main thing is Alcantara. But as I said, the pure fabric seats will also do just fine. So what about the comfort? Well, I take a seat right here, and you don't sit too high, so you don't exactly get a true SUV feeling, but it's also not the same feeling as in a normal passenger vehicle in a compact hatch or something, so you sit a little bit higher, just a little bit, so more than crossover I like. But the seating position is actually quite comfortable, so those quite sporty looking seats, they offer you a very decent comfort. I like that. And even if you put the seats in the lowest position here with the electric support, with 1.86 m or 6'1", I still got some decent headroom. Now the interior overview. What's definitely standing out is this infotainment system. And yeah, it's really very interesting. It really stands out. But that's also, you can better control it than wire touch, although it still has a lot of buttons right here. And yeah, that's the biggest news here in the interior. Finally, the Apple CarPlay or Android Auto support also for the European Toyota cars now being upgraded in all the new models or facelift upgrades and so on when they come. So that's definitely really good. And you see they also use most of the space they have right here. In this case, for this trim, you also have those Alcantara seats on the rear passenger side. So also beautiful job. Isofix at the outer seats each. But there's also a middle seat available. I will also test seat this one now. And yeah, it looks a little bit cramped, but how cramped is it really? Of course, no changes here in the facelift. And I can't sit here as a tall adult as I would be driving. Yeah, I touched the front seat. It does exactly fit. Also headroom-wise, it does exactly fit. No more, no less, so to say. So, that's not the most unique feature about this car, but it still works somehow with 4 adults. As for the middle seat, it's it's not too hard, and I can sit here, but when 2 big people are next to me, or even 3 of my size next to each other, yeah, that would get a little bit close. So, you can still use it, that's okay, but nothing plentiful. Then you flip the seat already from here. Of course, we'll take a detailed look from trunk. There's no middle armrest here whatsoever. I think we can definitely live with that. So it looks even more cramped from the outside than it actually is on the inside. So I think we can still be satisfied. Now to the luggage compartment. And yeah, it's a really interesting hatch, definitely. And it's also quite heavy to close it again, but of course, still okay. Here on the inside, you can also grab it that you don't, make your hands dirty when it's really dirty on the outside. Then I would probably recommend to remove this cover. Yeah, it's still useful for sound dampening while driving, but of course, if you need to transport some more luggage, it can make sense to put it out. This one here, about 380 liters of capacity in the normal versions, 1.2 and 1.8. Here in the bigger hybrid, just 360 liters, so you lose a little bit. And then this lower part here, you have some more storage that can be used quite well too. And then here they store the normal car battery. You also need that with a hybrid. Even with electric vehicles, you often need the normal car battery, for example, just to start up the car. So here we go. And then just to show you, when I put a backpack in here, yeah, that gets closed. The trunk still does close somehow, but yeah, so that still works, but you see it gets really, really close to this top cover right there. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge with the Toyota CHR in this facelift. And the cool thing about the inbuilt hybrid is you start in EV mode, but as soon as you accelerate a little bit more, there's the combustion engine hopping on, and it depends on the status of the battery. If it's a little bit fuller, then it's a little bit longer EV and so on. And it constantly changes, and you usually stay in this hybrid driving mode. As I said earlier, when you have enough capacity available, you can click this EV mode. At the moment unavailable, but if there's more capacity at the moment available, sorry, not the capacity, like more power in the battery available at the moment, then you can also use this EV mode a little bit longer if you want to induce that especially. Here on Estrada do Guincho, near Cascais, Portugal, such a beautiful area, such a beautiful beach, and always love to be here for car presentations. So there are actually three major things they upgraded here with the facelift of the Toyota CHR. And that basically counts for all models available. But I will also go into the specifics of the 2-liter hybrid engine very soon. So first thing is, they worked on the noise insulation. And also less vibrations from the engines, better dampening and so on. And indeed, it's more silent here in this interior. It really feels refined and yeah, some kind of premium feel, definitely. It resonates. Wow, what a beautiful view always, but take out the cyclists first and then off the view. So it really resonates with the upgraded materials and so on. So noise insulation upgrade, that's the first thing. And we also drove a longer route on the motorway yesterday evening. And yeah, I mean, at 120 kilometers an hour, there were some wind noise from the A-pillar, because that sounds really, quite far away, maybe from the side mirror, but that was quite normal. Overall, it was also on the motorway very relaxing with this car, especially about 100 kilometers, 60 miles an hour. That was really perfect. Then the second thing is they upgraded the steering feeling. So before it was quite numb, and here it's still light, but it has more connection to the road, so it feels more natural. So they really worked on that, and that's, maybe it's just a small change, but it so much contributes to the driving fun. There's no real dead area of this steering wheel in the angle, and you just have a natural steering feeling, and that's what I really love when cars have that. Especially nowadays with all those assistance systems. Some cars tend to have artificial feeling steering wheels or steering feelings, and that's not the case here. So that's a great update, definitely. And third major upgrade is the suspension. So before it was somewhat okay, but even it felt a little bit rough at times. You rather thought, oh, it's a very sporty suspension, but it was not that comfortable in situations where you had some bumps on the road and so on. Now, really great update, more comfort than before. That again also counts for all the models, but the 2-liter hybrid gets the most extensive care about the new suspension. So a little bit different hardware here even for this suspension. And I talked to the engineer earlier, and he has already driven the updated 1.8 suspension as well, so for the 1.8 hybrid. And he said, yes, also better, but this one here maybe even a little notch better.
And now we come to our conclusion of today with the new Toyota CHR. So indeed, when we talk about facelifts, sometimes there are minor changes, sometimes there are so big changes that they sometimes think, oh, it's an all-new car. I think here it's quite significant. It's not an all-new car, no, but they really have changed a lot. And starting with the exterior, we've seen that it's a little bit more refined, a little bit more bold in the character. I think that fits very well, and of course here, especially in this Thomas blue color. And I would really like to see how it looks like with this new grey contrasting roof, this metal grey. That could look even cooler, especially in this Thomas blue color. Nebula blue was the real name for today. On the interior, even more refined materials, so it really has a premium touch meanwhile. So yeah, it's not the cheapest model as well, and they also topped up the price. Yet again, there's more extra equipment, so I think that's quite okay. But you really get more for your money now, I think. Yeah, the infotainment system software, that's still something. I mean, let's be honest, it's rubbish, the software they have on there. But since we now finally also in Europe have the Apple CarPlay and the Android Auto, this is what you're going to be using most of the time. And then the rest of the infotainment system also doesn't matter that much software-wise. You still can get something in this car, yes, but of course the trunk is the big limitation. So we two, Jonas and I today, yeah, we had some struggles to get all our luggage with us. So that's definitely the limit of this vehicle. Then again, it has a compact size, so you get along with it in the city very well. And you can go for this turbo, yes, but then again, the hybrid is what also makes this car standing out. Also, if you think about the competition, you have those electric moments. The new hybrid, the bigger one, is also a little bit more elaborate to drive. Yet again, the 1.8 gets a lithium-ion battery. I would really like to test that one also at a later stage because it's supposed to be a little bit more spontaneous from the get-go. So really looking forward to do that. The biggest argument to go for the facelift version is, to me, the updated steering, which feels more natural, better to drive. Then of course NVH, the better noise insulation engine, also against wind noise, and of course this upgrade suspension, which accounts for all models. But yet again, the 2-liter hybrid gets hardware-wise the best new suspension. So all suspensions are better than before, but this one here especially good. That might be, to me, the main reason to go for this 2-liter hybrid then. But overall, I think really good upgrades they found here with this vehicle. So I think one of the best facelift changes we've seen recently. And of course then quite low in a fuel consumption if you think about this 5.5 liter, which is again, everything always way above 40 mpg, no matter if US or UK mpg. That's definitely quite cool. And now to our conclusion for today. The Mazda CX-30 offers an extensive package of standard equipment that's very cool and fair to the customer and makes driving also safer. The CX-30 shows a good natural driving experience and a nice interior. Rear space is not that plentiful. Unique selling point are naturally aspirated engines and the new Skyactiv X engine, which essentially has an effect like a turbo for the driver. The Nissan Juke in the new generation is more SUV than before and has undergone a massive upgrade in interior build quality, especially that lovely white interior is very fancy. A good overall package. The powertrain, however, can be a little weak at times. The Peugeot 2008 has this unique EV option which gives you an amazing driving experience. If you don't have charging infrastructure at home yet, however, the petrol also does fine. The new generation 2008 is also more SUV than before and offers nice visual solutions for the interior. The cockpit setup is special like in all the new Peugeots and gives you this computer game feeling. Overall, the car is pretty small but also Paris suitable, so to say. The Kia XCeed is the most straightforward car in this test, most conservative as for the interior layout, but also among the easiest to control. The build quality is very high. It also shows a very balanced and neutral handling. The Toyota CHR is unique due to its inbuilt hybrid possibility. That plays a role especially in city traffic where you can save fuel. The more you drive on the motorway, the more useless the system gets, however. The exterior design is the most unusual one. The interior, especially in the rear, is a little bit cramped. Long-term durability experience also speaks for the CHR. So where does it leave us? Again, a pretty tough decision. If you want to go electric, sure, it is the Peugeot e-2008. And you can very well argue for that if you have the suitable charging infrastructure and your lifestyle suits an electric driving profile. Driving the 2008 all-electric is a lot of fun. So yes, the Peugeot e-2008 is already one winner in this comparison test. But what about if we just take all combustion engines? The most unusual and most fun driving experience you will indeed also have in the Peugeot 2008 in any case, due to that special cockpit layout. More suitable for taller people, that's also why I prefer it, is the Kia XCeed. It feels like it would have the best build quality and the most solid overall package. It is not that emotion-packed as the 2008, but the XCeed just does the job in every kind of aspect and even delivers a good long-term comfort. So this would be then my pick for today. Surely it is closely followed by the Mazda CX-30, which is also a very convincing offer. Then I would go for the Nissan Juke, which shows a massive improvement in this new generation, or for the Peugeot 2008 petrol, especially if I wasn't that tall.
The Toyota in this case gets last place. You see that the other vehicles are newer and the CHR doesn't offer a good exterior length interior space ratio. But overall all good cars, and they fulfill a lot of needs at the same time. That's why the compact, subcompact or small SUVs, however your definition is, are so popular at the moment and also will continue to be so. So the Kia XCeed, it is my pick for today here. Second, the E2008 when EV infrastructure is in place. Which pick would be yours and why? See you in the comments, and I also hope you really enjoyed this comparison episode.